So before we get started with this, I would recommend that you get a drink, maybe a snack, go to the toilet, because there's 12 matches and this might be a long one because we're talking about what's going to happen. Well, we're not talking about what's going to happen. We're talking about why the matches are going to happen on AEW Dynasty. Or Dynasty, depending on how you pronounce it. Everyone on the commentary has been saying Dynasty. I think I would get told off by my mum if I pronounced it that way. So, who can say who's right? We're going with Dynasty. That's what they've been saying. 12 matches. There's a lot. But pretty much all of them seem good. So, yeah. And I will probably point out the ones I don't think sound good. Because why not? So on 0 Hour, which is technically before the pay-per-view, it's basically like an hour where anyone can watch it for free to try and get people to buy the pay-per-view. We have Matt Sydal versus Trent Beretta, which could steal the show in theory because they're both very, very, very good. Trent, poor Trent. Honestly, he's part of a tag team called the Best Friends. I'll just call Best Friends, not the Best Friends. Part of a tag team called Best Friends with Chuck Taylor. They've never won the tag team titles before, much to a lot of people's chagrin. It doesn't really make sense given that they are one of the biggest tag teams in AEW. But then, to be fair, not a lot of tag teams in AEW have won them, normally due to injuries and timing issues and whatnot. Speaking of injuries, Chuck Taylor is currently injured. Sad face. Get well soon. And as we will get on to later when I talk about the match for the tag team titles, there was basically a tournament. Obviously Best Friends couldn't compete because Chuck was injured. So Orange Cassidy, who is kind of part of the bigger group of Best Friends, not the tag team, but he's always with them and associated with them, he tagged with Trent instead. They lost their match against the Young Bucks, and then Trent attacked Orange after the match, and now he's a bad guy. He's a very bad guy. Though, I will say, I understand. Just, Trent is an incredible wrestler. He's just as good as Orange Cassidy. He makes all of his opponents look great. And yet, he doesn't have the recognition that Orange does. And Best Friends kind of get a little bit overshadowed by the fact that Orange Cassidy's like the main star out of the group, so to speak. Not really true, but like in terms of having signs in the crowd and having people dress up as him and stuff like that. Like Orange Cassidy's like the center of attention, and Best Friends are like with him. But people love the Best Friends as well. But as someone who was overshadowed by my best friend in high school and college, like, I get it. I get that he would eventually just be like, nah, fuck this guy. Especially given that Trent maybe seems to care more about Orange than Orange is about him. I don't know, that's speculation, but he's still a bad guy because he attacked Orange Cassidy. I'm just saying, devil's advocate, there are arguments that could say it was warranted, and it has been kind of a long time coming. But Trent singles push, perhaps, which I would love personally, because he's really great and he deserves it, and he's one of Tony Khan's favourites, apparently. maybe he just said that on Twitter to make him feel better. And he's going against Matt Sydal. So basically what happened was Orange Cassidy wrestled Shane Taylor. We will get onto the Shane Taylor stuff in a bit. But the important thing is Orange beat Shane Taylor, and then afterwards Shane Taylor with his group, Shane Taylor Promotions, him, Lee Moriarty and Anthony Ogogo, attacked Orange Cassidy. Some people came out in an attempt to help Orange Cassidy. Well, 2 people came out in an attempt to help Orange Cassidy, Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal. And then Trent came out and attacked them both with chairs. He got hit twice, once to the face, which is not great. So now they're wrestling. And that's that match. And then also on Zero Hour, we have Orange Cassidy and Katsuyori Shibata versus Shane Taylor and Lee Moriarty. I said we would get more into the Shane Taylor stuff, and now we're there. So basically what happened was there was a trios match. Doesn't really matter who was in the trios match, that's whatever. What matters is that Shibata was pinned by Lee Moriarty, and then I can't remember if shenanigans happened afterwards and if there was attack or not. I don't think there was, but I don't remember. So then they were scheduled for a singles match, which Shibata won, and then obviously Shane Taylor Promotions couldn't be having that, came out, attacked Shibata. Shibata and Orange Cassidy are friends. So Orange was basically like, oh, I'm losing some of my friends, obviously with the Trent stuff, and Chuck has not picked a side yet, it doesn't seem. And Chris Statlander, who was like the last member of like the bigger best friends group, is kind of doing her own thing. We'll get onto that in a bit. So he was like, well, I can't have you beating up one of the few friends that I still have. So he challenged Shane Taylor to a match, which he won. Orange won. And then Shane Taylor's Promotions attacked Orange Cassidy after the match. So that's basically why this tag team match exists. It's been set up very recently, but it's good because Shane Taylor Promotions are really good, and we're finally seeing them on AEW TV. They've been in Ring of Honor for a long time, and they're like bringing them into AEW, and they're really fun to watch, and it's interesting where they're going with the whole thing. So yay. FTW World Champion. I am in the minority of people that are kind of happy this match exists. We will get into that. Basically, I mean, I think I've explained before in my World's End video, but I will recap because that was 4 months ago. This championship is not technically recognised by any company. It was just made up by a guy named Taz because he felt like the company that he worked for at the time, I think it was ECW, was kind of like refusing to let him win the world championship. So he was like, I'll invent my own, which he did. And now he works at AEW. He brought it back. And Hook is Taz's son. Which, you know, nepotism and all that. But then no one's really that arsed about the FTW championship. It doesn't, yeah. It's like, whatever. But he's been the champion for ages. Yeah, his dad invented it. And important thing to note, he has already beaten Chris Jericho, who he is competing for this against. He kicked his ass, and it was fun to watch. And then we have Chris Jericho, who is a veteran of AEW. He was the first AEW World Champion. It was a very fun title reign. And he basically offered Hook. He was like, I'll take you under my wing and I'll bring you up to the next level and I can make you amazing. The thing to note about Chris Jericho is people online, and I think it is a thing that exists. There's a thing called the Chris Jericho vortex that people have made up. That basically anyone that ends up in a storyline with him gets sapped into this world that they kind of can't escape from, and it's doesn't really showcase people. They just get sucked into this thing that no one's interested in and no one cares about, and it actively makes things worse, and people get very mad anytime anyone is associated with Chris Jericho, which I think is a bit unfair, to be honest. Yeah, but it's a thing, and he's leaning into it because he's basically now his new gimmick is that he is a teacher and that he wants to help these young people, and he's like annoyed when they don't follow his advice and whatever, but like he's very like arrogant and like leaning into the things that people are saying that they don't like about him, about this vortex and stuff, and like leaning heavily into delusion, which is like the sweet spot for Chris Jericho. Like his best work is when he thinks he is entirely serious and everyone else thinks he's a joke. Like that is where he's the best. Obviously as a character, I'm pretty sure that, well, I mean I'm definitely sure now he knows this is a self-awareness thing. It's not like he doesn't actually know he's the butt of the joke. Like that's the point of it. Yeah, basically there was a trios match. It was him, Hook and Shibata, the one from earlier. And Chris was annoyed because he had basically given them advice on what to do and they hadn't followed it, and then they lost. But he was like, I'll give you one more chance to follow my advice. Hook said, no, I'm good. And so he's challenging for this belt. Now, everyone is going to be annoyed at me for saying this, but I think he should win this belt. Everyone is like, no, get Chris Jericho away from Hook. I think Chris should have this belt. I think he should get this belt and then he should open the Chris Jericho dojo and he should be like trying to train these young people while secretly undermining them and being resentful of them for not listening. And it should be a steady stream of like him trying to train people up to take this belt, but he's secretly not really training them up well enough to take the belt from him because he doesn't want to like lose the relevancy of having a world championship, even though it's not officially recognised. Like, I think this is the perfect spot for Chris Jericho to be in. Everyone will be mad at me for saying that because they don't like Chris Jericho, even when there are glimmers of hope, like this character emerging, because he had a bad spell a little while ago and people were like, get him off the TV, he needs a break, we're sick of him. I was in that camp as well, but I recognise when he's doing good stuff, and this is good stuff, so we will see. And people will be mad and say that he's booked himself into winning the title if he does win, but screw those people. I think it makes sense. I have a lot of not controversial opinions on how some of these matches should go, but opinions that very much differ from the vast majority that I see online. But I don't care because I'm just gonna do it anyway. What is the next slide? This one might be a long one. Just because it's not directly obvious why it exists, but there is a line to it. So it's Adam Copeland, Matt Briscoe and Eddie Kingston versus House of Black. So yeah, this match is mainly about Matt Briscoe and House of Black are trios, so it feels very much like, oh, Mark Briscoe needs 2 other people. So they grabbed 2 other people that they thought would fit well into this. We'll see how it goes. I have like negative interest in this match. The fact that it's on a pay-per-view, I really don't think it needs to be. But whatever. We'll see. So we're gonna talk about the 2 that aren't really relevant, and then we'll get onto Mark Briscoe, and then we will explain the lineage of like how this came to be. So Adam Copeland, he's the TNT champion because he beat Christian Cage, who has been absent since, which is sad. I miss the patriarchy. He introduced something with, it's a horrible name. I'm sick of people saying it has a ring to it. They keep saying it on AEW TV that it has a ring to it. It doesn't. It's a horrible name. I'm sure they could have come up with something better. But he does something called the Cope Open, which doesn't have a ring to it. It doesn't. It's difficult to say. It's gross. But that's the name they've stuck to. Which basically anyone can challenge for the belt. Anyone can like come and test themselves against him. He did this before he got the TNT Championship as well. So he just brought it back once he got the belt. After his first title defense against Matt Cardona, which was a big surprise to everyone because he's not signed with AEW. They used to work together in WWE, and he got a big reaction. I got excited, even though I don't watch Matt Cardona on the indies, but you know, the crowd were really into it, so I got into it, and it was a good match. And obviously, Adam Copeland kept the belt, because why would he lose the belt to someone who's not in the company? But after the match, lights went out, Malachi Black appeared menacingly, and then the House of Black attacked him. No particular reason other than that. It didn't set up like a TNT challenge or anything like that. I'm pretty sure that he's not challenged for the belt. It was just like I don't know, a tease to maybe suggest he might challenge for the belt. A lot of people have been mad that Malachi Black's not been in many singles matches, so I think maybe they were teasing that he might be, but then he never actually challenged for the belt. But then there's not been that many in the Cope Open since, so never mind. Eddie Kingston is the second man in the thing. He was, I mean, obviously, yeah, he won the Continental Championship, so he was New Japan Strong, Continental Champion, and Ring of Honor World Champion. He lost the Continental Championship to Okada, and then he fought Mark Briscoe for the Ring of Honor World Champion, which he lost. So Mark Briscoe is now Ring of Honor World Champion, which makes more sense because Mark Briscoe is on Ring of Honor a lot more than Eddie Kingston has been of late. But who knows how it'll affect morale. They seem like good mates, so I don't think that there was necessarily many hurt feelings. He seemed happy for him. I think, actually, breaking kayfabe, Eddie Kingston was the one who pitched the idea that he faced Mark Briscoe, so I assume that he was the one that pitched the idea that he would lose the belt to Mark Briscoe. So they should be fine. Yeah, I think he's mainly involved because people really like him, so why not put him on a pay-per-view? And he loves to fight, so why not? Matt Briscoe. Oh, ignore that mistake in the erasing thing. Keynote is not great at erasing backgrounds for everything. He's made Benson feuding in the House of Black. He tried to set Buddy Matthews on fire. It's important. But he's still a good guy. You can things are a bit loosey-goosey with AEW in terms of what makes people good guys and bad guys these days. It was fun watching him try to set Buddy Matthews on fire though, because he got the controls for the pyro for the stage and was just pressing buttons. But yeah, House of Black. Timeline might seem random because basically, this begins months ago. This whole thing kind of starts with House of Black and FTR, who were nowhere near this thing, but we will get to FTR later because they will come up. So House of Black were kind of trying to recruit FTR, but like not trying to recruit. It was a weird situation where House of Black were basically just kept saying that, oh, you've got no friends, no one's gonna come and save you, and then like kind of coming out and attacking them to like prove a point that they had no one to help them. But then Daniel Garcia helped them, and it was like, oh, you're a 3, we're a 3, let's fight. Which led to a steel cage match, which was like an escape the cage. So you had to either climb over the top of the cage or go through the door, which was a weird thing, but like you had to wait for the ref to come and unlock the door and then you could walk out. It's a whole thing. So House of Black attacked Garcia before the match, and then Mark Briscoe volunteered to stand in because he was like, I don't like what these guys are doing, I will participate. And they also, Mark Briscoe teamed up with FTR during a Ring of Honor match in December, I believe it was, against Blackpool Combat Club. So I think it was that. They kind of have history because they did that match. Because FTR and the Briscoe brothers have history. We don't need to get into that. That's Ring of Honor stuff. We don't need that. So yeah, Mark Briscoe volunteered to stand in for Daniel Garcia. He came out and one of them, I can't remember who, I think it was Buddy, threw Mark through a table, immediately knocked him out. But then Garcia rejoined. I don't know why I'm using my hand, I've got a stick specifically for that. Garcia came out, I think he was bandaged up. I think he had a bandage around his head or something. But that doesn't matter. He came out, they did the match. Malachi could have won. The gate of the cage was open and he was about to leave, and Mark Briscoe slammed the cage door in Malachi's face, and then Garcia got out of the cage, meaning that FTR and Daniel Garcia won, which then kind of led to them keeping on attacking each other. And then when there was a street fight, this happened after Mark tried to set Buddy on fire. After that, they had a street fight, House of Black, and then Mark Briscoe teamed up with Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, because why not? Those guys aren't doing anything. And then the match ended with Mark Briscoe being thrown through a flaming table, which didn't look fun. Which continued the feud. So House of Black were in the tag team tournament. They were facing the Infantry. They were facing the Infantry, and Mark Briscoe came out and basically distracted them, and the Infantry got the win. So I think a lot of it is leading up to the fact that he cost them the tag team titles, but also like this other shit where they've just been like at each other a lot. I'm not really invested in this, I'll be honest. There's something about House of Black that I thought I would vibe with them, and then I started watching and I was like, oh, actually I don't. I love Brody King, I don't connect with the others. And Julie Hart's great, but Julie Hart and Brody King I like, and then the other two I've just got like negative interest in. I don't know why. The Continental Championship. So I already mentioned Eddie Kingston lost this to Kazuchika Okada in, I can't remember if it was his first singles match since joining AEW or maybe second, I don't know. He won it within a few weeks of being in the company. Beat Eddie Kingston. Oh yeah, it was his first singles match. Unless I've written that wrong. Who knows? He's a member of the Elite alongside Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, who we will get to. I love him so much. He's only been with us for a short time. With us. With AEW for a short time. I've not watched his New Japan stuff, but he was basically the biggest star in New Japan, and now he's in AEW, and he's playing a bit of a dickhead, part of like a corporate dickhead. Worst kind of dickhead. He's great. They call him the Rainmaker, and they shoot money out of cannons when he comes out. Pac is who he's facing for this belt. I can't quite remember why this happens. I think it was more a thing of like Pac's been out injured for a while, so they just kind of like brought him into a big title thing immediately, which we will get to because a similar thing has kind of happened with Kyle O'Reilly, but that has more of a story back into it. I don't really remember why Pac's challenging for this title, but then I think with AEW and they have rankings and stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily like matter if there's not a story. But yeah, I think he just wants the title, and I think he doesn't like that Okada's come in and has immediately taken the title over all of the deserving people who've been at AEW for years. Maybe. Finally, a women's match. There's only two in this card, but hopefully they're both going to be great. I think they will be. It's the TBS Championship. So Julie Hart currently has the TBS champion, member of the House of Black. It's kind of the one that made people interested in House of Black again. Once she like won the title, people were like, oh, actually, we're interested in House of Black, which I think is probably part of the reason why they're getting a bit of a push. The only thing to really note, like, this is like a lot of things intertwined. She's friends with little Sky Blue down there. Julia spit mist in Sky Blue and Willow Nightingale's faces in an attempt to kind of turn them like to her side. She said that it's like a gift of friendship. Willow fought back and rejected it and was fine. Sky Blue turned a bit spooky and is now Julia's best friend. Well, I say best friend. They're friends. I don't know who her best friend is. And she's fighting Willow Nightingale, who won a 4-way match to become the #1 contender for the TBS title, the one who gets to challenge for it. She was good friends with Sky Blue before Sky Blue became Julia's friend. And she's besties with Chris Statlander, and they're both managed by a guy called Stokely Hathaway. More context for all of that stuff. Before Julia was a champion, Chris Statlander was. Basically what happened was it was a 3-way match between Chris Statlander, Julia Hart and Sky Blue, and basically in a 3-way match it's just the first person to pin someone else or get someone else to submit is the person who wins. So Chris Statlander was never actually pinned for the title. She didn't ever like actually sort of like lose it properly. Julia Hart pinned Sky Blue to win the title. And then there's been like a running thing of like Stokely keeps trying to get them to cheat, and his attempts to getting them to try to cheat has made Chris Statlander lose matches that she shouldn't have necessarily lost. So there's been a few times where back up. At World's End, they had a match on 0 Hour, which Willow won. And then there's been a couple of times, I can't remember who the first opponent was, might have been Sky Blue. Yeah, it was probably Sky Blue. They both had matches against Sky Blue, and they both had matches against Riho. And both of those times, Chris lost, but Willow won. So we don't know what that's leading to. Possibly Chris Statlander turning bad in order to finally get a win. Stockley's a bad influence. But I have shifted my theory somewhat because Chris is friends with Chuck and Orange and Trent, that perhaps with Trent attacking Orange, she may have seen something that she didn't like, and instead of going down the route that Trent did of turning on his best friend, turning against his best friends, not turning them on, turning against his best friends, that she might have been like, I don't want to do that, and has now decided to like aggressively help Willow in bad and violent ways. Because context for that, Mercedes Moné was attacked. Mercedes has beef with Willow Nightingale. Is basically the thing. That's, we're not up to that yet. But we have the AEW Trios titles. That shade of pink is horrible. I get what they were going for, but it's gross. It's absolutely, it's gross. Okay, so the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass are the current Trios champions. They beat House of Black for it. A lot of people are like, they should give up the belts and they don't like them being champion. I'm not one of those. I don't think you can blame them for the fact that there aren't many trios in AEW anywhere, and most of the trios are like a tag team and one other person, so it's like this should be in the tag team, really, tag division. But I don't think you can blame the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass for it. I think it's a booking issue. I think it's just them not having enough trios to be able to defend the title a lot. So Daddy Ass is also known as Billy Gunn. He is the father of Colton and Austin Gunn, who we will get to. The Acclaimed and Daddy Ass joined forces with Bullet Club Gold for a little bit. They basically, this was like after World's End, where the Undisputed Kingdom like revealed themselves, which were like wearing devil's masks, attacking people. They attacked the Acclaimed and they attacked Jay White. So it was like, we'll join forces and kick their asses. And then like a week later, they all changed their mission to be like, we're not that bothered about defending against them or fighting them. I'm guessing it's because the Undisputed Kingdom would be outnumbered, because there was only like 4 of them and there's 6 of these guys. So I think they just decided like, nah, that doesn't make sense. Which has led to them basically being like, oh, well, we'll all get gold, so we'll get gold. They've got trio titles. Bullet Club Gold have the Ring of Honor 6-man titles. And then we'll get to Bullet Club Gold. Rest well, Juice Robinson. He's out injured currently. Should be back, hopefully, at some point soon. Austin, Colton, yeah. So basically, they were a group, the Bang Bang Scissor Gang, and then Jay White had a singles match against Darby Allin, and they basically broke his foot, and then the Acclaimed came out to help Darby Allin, because they're good guys, and then Bullet Club Gold attacked the Acclaimed, and now they're not friends anymore. And then Jay White and, well, the gang broke into Dias's home and almost smashed his TV with a baseball bat that Darby Allin had that was given to him by Sting. We'll get to that too in a bit. But they were interrupted. And it's been mentioned, I don't know if it is completely true, of like they're gonna combine the trios, the AEW trios, with the Ring of Honor 6-man to make like just like a trios thing that can be defended in both promotions or what. But there's no need for 2 sets of trios belts, really, because there's not enough trios in AEW or Ring of Honor to sustain any kind of story. This has been pushed super fast and it pisses me off, I'll be honest. I feel like I was one of the very, very few people who legitimately enjoyed this. People have a weird thing about Jay White. Not like in a, they don't like him sort of way, but in like the opposite of like, if he's not the world champion, then he's not being used correctly. Like, he should be world champion or the booking is terrible, despite the fact that he's on TV weekly in great feuds and whatever. And people just hate the Acclaimed for some reason. Probably because of Max Caster's Twitter profile, to be honest. But like, they were hot shit when they won in summer, and then suddenly everyone turned on and hated them, and I'm guessing it's something to do with the fact that the belts aren't defended frequently, but that's not their problem. That's an AEW problem. Never mind. We will leave that as it is and move on to the International Championship. So, Roderick Strong is the current International Champion. He beat Orange Cassidy. He's also a member of the Undisputed Kingdom with these two, which are the Kingdom tag team. They keep calling them the Undisputed Kingdom when they're a tag team, which pisses me off because that's not what they are. They are the Kingdom. Matt Taven, Mike Bennett. He's kind of the leader, but he's not really the leader. Like, Adam Cole is supposed to be the leader, but Adam Cole broke his ankle like ages ago. But he's still out in injury, and he was like the mastermind of a bunch of shit. But Roderick Strong, like, these two guys kind of just follow Roderick Strong's lead of like listening to what he wants them to do and attacking the people he wants them to attack. But there's one other guy in the Undisputed Kingdom called Wardlow, and I feel like Wardlow only listens to Adam Cole. But Wardlow's probably going to leave the Undisputed Kingdom soon because it's not doing anything for him. And he shouldn't be part of it. My opinion. And then we have Kyle O'Reilly, who's just the cutest man ever. Got that face. He returned at Revolution. He'd been out injured for like almost 2 years, I think. They didn't know that he would ever be able to wrestle again. But he came back. He's back. And he's also one of Roderick Strong's besties. Like, they've been best friends for like probably at least a decade. Like, they were together in Ring of Honor and like all of these other places, and WWE for a while, I think. I think he was part of WWE. Yeah, because he was in NXT. Best friends. When he came back at Revolution, he basically came out after Roderick Strong's match against Orange Cassidy and congratulated Roderick for winning, and they hugged, and then they offered him an Undisputed Kingdom t-shirt, and he turned them down. And he's basically been claiming ever since that he wants to make it on his own, he wants to prove himself. He doesn't want like the backup or to feel like he's not earned his wins because of, people coming out and attacking him. And also, he's just come back from injury for 2 years. Why would he be a villain? Like, it doesn't make sense People want to cheer for the people who have overcome their struggles and come back. And Roderick was like, that's fine. But they kept coming out and celebrating after he'd won matches. Each time it was just like, oh, you're still our friend, so we'll come and congratulate you and whatnot. But that didn't last. Because Roderick's not a nice man. So Roderick was defending the International Championship. He wasn't technically defending the International Championship. He had a match against Rocky Romero. And Rocky lost. You know, as was expected, because it was on Battle of the Belts and the belts hardly ever change hands on there. But Kyle came out to celebrate with Roderick and celebrate his win. But then the Undisputed Kingdom started attacking Rocky Romero, even though he was already down. And Kyle, like, stepped in to try and protect him, try and help him. And then Roderick attacked Kyle and was basically saying, you can only do this on your own because I let you do it on your own, and basically turned against him. And they're not friends anymore. And that's sad, but it makes sense. So now he's challenging for the belt. It's like, if my friend attacked me, I'd be like, fuck you, I want to try and take what you have. Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson seems to be the match that people are like the most excited about, maybe. But I don't know if maybe that's just because it's been the one that's been hyped up the most. Plus, basically, Will Ospreay is incredible. New signing to AEW. Technically, I think he signed in November, but he didn't start until March? End of February, maybe? By the end of February or March, because he had to, like, finish his obligations in New Japan, which is where he worked before. Context doesn't really matter. But he is widely regarded as, like, one of the best in the world. Like, one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's also a great talker. He's great at promos. People don't mention that enough. He's just an all-round, like, incredible talent. And everyone already loves him. Because why wouldn't you? He's amazing. But I forgot I put fireworks on that. Oops. Bryan Danielson is basically regarded as, like, one of the best wrestlers of all time, like, not just of this generation, but, like, ever. And this is his last year of full-time wrestling. He's probably still going to wrestle loads, because he's Bryan Danielson. I don't think he'd quit until he's dead, but he basically told his kids, when you turn 7, I think it was, when one of them turned 7, he was going to stop wrestling full-time so he could be with the kids more. We'll see how that goes, or if he'll just end up wrestling because he'll miss it too much. But this is just a competition to see who's really the best. If the best of all time is really no one's going to change the view on Danielson being one of the best of all time, even if he loses. It's probably more a test of whether Will Ospreay is on that level. And I predict Will Ospreay is probably going to win, because if there's one thing you know about Danielson, he likes putting over other people. He likes making them look good. And Ospreay winning would definitely put him in that category. But we'll see. Tag titles. Woo! Finally onto these. Which means we've only got 3 matches left. We're on the home stretch. Unless I put these in a weird order. Okay, so the titles are currently vacant because... Is that picture going to come back? Probably not. Okay. That was Sting and Darby Allin. I should have checked that graphic out before. They were the tag team champs, and they retained their titles versus the Young Bucks at Revolution, which was in March. However, Revolution was also Sting's retirement match. So obviously he can't have the belts into retirement, otherwise the belts would never get defended. So they had to vacate the titles, and they did a tournament, kind of. It wasn't a great tournament, I'll admit. I think they left it too late. So it didn't last that long. Could have been amazing with like 32 tag teams in it. And instead there was 8, kind of. It wasn't the best. But it happened. And 2 teams won. The Young Bucks won their bracket in order to compete for the final. Matthew, Nicholas. Don't call them Matt and Nick because you'll get fined. They are EVPs. We love them. We're not supposed to love them, but we love them. They're bad guys, but I mean, this is genuinely like one of the best and most interesting character work in AEW currently, and they're a lot of fun. EVP stands for Executive Vice President. They are 2-time tag champs already in AEW. They're also regarded as one of the best tag teams of all time, and they beat the Best Friends to get to the final, as we have mentioned. They're the best. I love them. He's a proper goofball and wears the ugliest suits. No, actually, no, they're not always ugly. Interesting suits and hats, and they now wrestle in waistcoats. It's a thing. And then FTR, they beat Top Flight to make it to the final, although there was some. It didn't seem like he was meant to beat Top Flight. Top Flight were meant to lose to Ricky Starks and Big Bill, but Ricky Starks called an audible, which is basically when they say to the ref, like, oh, I'm injured, so let the other person win. Turns out he wasn't injured. Like, he thought he might be, but actually he was okay. But just to be on the safe side, they beat Top Flight instead. They are also 2-time AEW tag champs, and they last faced off at All In, where FTR, who were already the champions going into it, retained. Now, I don't know how much I want to get into this, but the Young Bucks are basically claiming that CM Punk attacking Jack Perry distracted them, which meant that they couldn't win this match. That if that hadn't have happened, they would have been able to prove to everyone that they are a better tag team than FTR, because there's a big thing of like, which of the two of them are the best tag teams in the world. And they claim that, like, oh, the only reason we lost was because we had to put our EVP hats on and deal with this situation, and we couldn't warm up and we couldn't pray before our match because there was too much shit going on. And if that hadn't happened, we would have won. And then, second to last, we have the Women's World Championship. We have Toni Storm is the current champ. She's old school, like Hollywood starlet, but like a little bit kind of deranged. She's very funny. 3-time world champ. She wasn't the first 3-time world champ, that was Hikaru Shida, but she was the one who beat Shida for the title to become the second woman to be the 3rd-time world champ. That's the one numbers. She has a butler called Luther, and I called Mariah May a sidekick. She's not a sidekick. Mariah May is quite... Is she a love interest, maybe? Mariah May dresses up as what Toni Storm used to wear when she first arrived at AEW. She's kind of like this, like a young, not wannabe, that sounds disrespectful, but like she idolizes Toni Storm, so she's like, she wants to do everything that she does and become just like her, so she's dressing like the old version of her, and they kiss a lot, which is just nice to see. Yeah, I just decide that I can't see Toni Storm losing this belt. I think Toni Storm's going to lose this belt to Mariah May. And then we have Thunder Rosa, who pinned Toni Storm during a tag match. She was the Women's World Championship a while ago, 2022 maybe? I don't know the specific date. But she was injured, I think, and she had to vacate the title. So she's never actually lost the title at all. Like, she just had to like step back and leave it because she couldn't defend it. She's never been beaten. She's never been beaten by Toni, and they used to be a tag team very briefly. They only had like 2 matches. She did tag with Toni Storm at one point. Since pinning Toni Storm's kind of like, yeah, had it in for her. Like, she tried to wipe off her face paint at one point. I think she punched her, did she? And knocked her out. And like, and then in retaliation, she knocked out Toni Storm's butler, which was fun to watch. And then scribbled all over Toni Storm's face with lipstick. They don't like each other. Doesn't seem. She wants the title back because she never lost it, and she's always been able to beat Toni every time she faced her, so she thinks that it's her right to have the title. And then lastly, AEW Men's World Championship. So we have Samoa Joe, who currently has the title. I put that he retained the title at Revolution just because it's relevant to the situation. He won the title at World's End against MJF, and then he introduced the ranking system back to AEW, which is basically like, you want to fight me for the title, like, you have to be like the best of the best, like, you have to be #1 contender, like a league table basically. And they reached the point before Revolution where Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page were both #1 contenders, so they had a match to basically determine which of them would be #1 contenders. That match ended in a time limit draw, because they had 30 minutes to wrestle, and by 30 minutes no one had won, so it ended up being a 3-way match, and Samoa Joe choked out Hangman Adam Page. I think Hangman tapped out. Yeah, Hangman tapped out, I think. I'm pretty sure. But Hangman's kind of since during that match, Hangman attacked 2 referees, and then because he was like, he didn't want Swerve Strickland to win because they have like this big feud, which I might get into, we'll see. And he couldn't stand the idea of Swerve Strickland having the belt, so every time Swerve looked like he was getting a pin, Hangman would knock out a referee, so he couldn't count to 3. Didn't really work in his favour when he managed to get a pin and there was no referee because he'd knocked them out. But anyway, Hangman then got suspended because of that, because we don't attack referees. So he's been gone for a little bit. Swerve is still number 1 in the rankings because he beat Konosuke Takeshita, which is sad face. He wants to be, he keeps, okay, this personally annoys me, and I feel like I'm the only one that gets annoyed, because he keeps saying on the mic that he wants to be AEW's first black world champion. But there already has been an AEW black world champion. Her name is Nyla Rose, and by not including men's world champion in that, you're kind of discounting the fact that Nyla Rose was champion at all, because Nyla Rose was the second ever women's world champion, and Nyla Rose is black, so we have already had a black world champion. She's just a woman and not a man. That annoys me, personally. It feels disrespectful to the women. But that's neither here nor there. People kind of like, people know what he means when he says first black world champion, but like, that's not, yeah, you've got to be accurate. Annoys me. Okay. So he thinks that he should be champion because Samoa, well, he thinks he still deserves a shot at the championship because Samoa Joe never beat him. Because Hangman, he's not coming back. He's left the building for now. Because like Samoa Joe didn't beat Swerve, he didn't retain the title for pinning him. He just, yeah, he got it from Hangman. So he thinks that like, oh well, I still deserve a shot at this. People do argue that Hangman Adam Page tapped out just because he didn't want Swerve Strickland to get the belt. That it was like a thing of like, I would rather have Samoa Joe get it than you get it, because if I feel like I can't win, then at least I know that you don't have it, because they hate each other. So there might be shenanigans at Dynasty. Who knows? Although everybody's saying that Swerve Strickland should win. Everyone. Like, I have not seen a single person online say that Samoa Joe should retain this title. I think Samoa Joe should retain this title. Number 1, I don't want him to be a transitional champion, which, you don't know, transitional champion is basically somebody who is just holding the belt until they can put it onto the person they want to put the belt onto, which in this case would be Swerve Strickland. I think that Samoa Joe deserves at least one feud that's actually focused on him, because this feud still has the stink of Hangman on it a little bit, even though it is a bit more focused on Joe this time around, whereas towards Revolution it was kind of like Hangman and Swerve fighting for the title even though neither of them have it, and not really paying much attention to Joe, which, yeah, it's not right. But my thinking is Swerve Strickland is now a babyface, but he's not really redeemed himself for his past. So, for context, Swerve was in a tag team with a guy called Keith Lee. He turned on Keith Lee. I think he hit him with a cinder block. Hasn't repented for that. He beat up an 18-year-old kid and left him bloody in his like garage or something. Hasn't redeemed himself for that. He turned against AR Fox after inviting him into the Mall Embassy. He was like, no, you're not. I tried to test you and you failed. Attacked him. Hasn't repented for that. He broke into Hangman Adam Page's house and filmed a promo leaning over a baby's crib. Hangman's baby's crib. And not only has he not repented for this, but he has said multiple times, I think, that he does not regret a single thing that he has done that has led him to the place that he is at now. So my thinking is, he can't be a true babyface until he confronts everything that he did and he repents for his sins. Because the thing is, he is a babyface only because the crowd like him. Because the thing in wrestling is that the company want you to cheer for the face, boo the heel. And sometimes the crowd do not do that. Sometimes the crowd don't follow what the bookers want you to follow. Heels might get cheers to the point where either, like, in Toni Storm's case, like, she is supposed to be this heel character, like a goofy heel, but the fans love her so much that it's difficult for a babyface to go up against her and garner the support of the audience, because everyone wants to cheer for Toni Storm. And it became a similar thing in the Swerve Hangman thing of, like, Hangman was the face and Swerve was the heel, but people were cheering for Swerve, and then people started booing Hangman, and it didn't fit to the point where it was like, we need to switch these people around and we need to make Swerve the good guy and make Hangman the bad guy. And Swerve's, I mean, I don't think he can't really do any wrong in most people's eyes, but I think that he shouldn't win yet, because I feel like he needs to repent for all of the bad things he's done, and like, only then will he be worthy of holding that title and being champion as a pure babyface, is my view on it. So I don't think he should win yet. I don't know who Samoa Joe's next feud would be with, though. So my hope is actually that Keith Lee comes out and attacks Swerve. I don't think he will, because I'm pretty sure he's out injured. But I don't think Swerve deserves to win yet. And that's a controversial thing to say, because everybody thinks he should win, but I just feels disrespectful for Joe to be this transitional champ. To be like, oh, he's defended against what, like 3 people? 4, maybe, at a push. I just disagree. I think that the better story to me is to make Swerve constantly have to revisit his past in order to push through. Because one thing that a lot of people tend to be ignoring is he did a coffin match at All In. And a coffin match is basically, you have to put your opponent in a coffin and close the lid completely, and only then do you win. And Swerve was put in the coffin, and he's said ever since then he has not slept. That, like, they're like putting bags under his eyes with fucking purple eyeshadow and shit like that. Like, this is still part of a storyline, and I feel like the only way he can finally sleep would be to repent for all of the bad things that he's done, rather than saying that he doesn't regret it because it got him to where he is. I feel like you repent for everything, you become the good guy, and then good fortune will follow, because karma's a bitch. So this is when karma should kick in the form of these people coming back and fighting him. That's my opinion, that is shared by no one. Everyone's like, nope, Swerve should win. It would be a mistake if he did not win. well, call my opinion a mistake, because I do not think you should win. Roxy's going to say hello, and I am going to say goodbye. I hope this helped. So when I send messages on Monday morning explaining what went down, that you will be, don't show your bum, you will be in the knowledge of knowing what the hell I'm talking about.